All right, we're doing some system checks real quick. I got the intro screen up, but we will be getting into the event and going over what we had planned for today's video, the first of a new series. I'm pretty excited for this, so bear with me while I make sure everything is working. All right, well, let's get this going. So I'm Dale with Renewable Innovations, and this is a series I've been kind of, thinking about for a while on doing. It's nothing new specifically, but it's definitely something that has, made me want to explore some other options in terms of what we can do. So, hopefully the footage on this first round is okay. This is my first time with this particular setup, so just kind of bear with me. But yeah, we're basically going to start building some custom quotes, and I'm going to be using homes that are listed for sale. So I'm going to be looking on realtor.com and then putting them through my proposal software. We're going to build them together live so you can get a feel for what you can expect if you requested a quote from me directly, which you can do. You just have to visit our website, reinnovations.org, and yeah, that's right here. And as you can see, you can just go to the website, reinnovations.org, and you're good to go. You can just request your quote as you wish, and yeah, nothing really big to do. Let me make sure we're on the right application. Oh, we want Chrome. There we go. See, this is why we had some little, there we go. Now we're good. Now you're seeing what you need to see. This is the website. Again, you can go to reinnovations.org and you can just request a hassle-free quote if you need inverter service, whatever it might be. I'm here for you at the end of the day. Got plenty of partners to help make something happen. So let's get into it. This is the Palm Springs market, and we're going to try and do 3 to 5 proposals in this live stream. So we'll see how it goes. I'm only trying to do this for about an hour, and yeah, we'll be able to gauge it accordingly. I'm going to try and do like a small, medium, large, and maybe we can do like an extra large system. These are going to include storage in all of them, and I'm going to be using Axia by QCell for the pricing. That's one of the main partners. I do have other partners available, energy service partners. I just got their pricing all in the system. And then I'm still working on Icon Power in Arizona, as we'll be doing playlists for different states. So the first thing we want to do is narrow down the property type. We do not want any property type, we just want houses. And then what we also want to do is narrow down the square footage. So we're going to try and set this first square footage to like 1,500. Let's try and find something 1,000 to 1,500 and see what we can dig up. So let's narrow that down. and it says there's no homes. Okay, we may not use realtor.com because I already ran through this and there was plenty of homes. There it goes. I don't know why it said no homes at first. So let's see, we got one right here. This is a nice property. This is about 1,000 square feet, 3-bedroom, 3-bath. Probably wouldn't need a really large system for this one. We have another one right here. It's 1170 on the square footage, 1125. These are all in Palm Springs, right? I'm trying to do this city by city. So each week on Tuesday, you'll be able to chime in and you'll be able to see different cities. I think next week I have it scheduled for Temecula, California. So if you live in Temecula, you're interested in a solar quote, maybe your home is listed for sale. It's always a good investment to put solar on your home. This one's a nice one. This one's about 1,400 square feet. Let's see if it has solar real quick. I don't see anything on the front of the house. As we're kind of scrolling through this, let me get my head out of the way for you a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's not looking like it. Okay, so let's grab this property address and jump over to Open Solar. That's what I use for proposals. Shout out to K2 Systems. Glad to see you guys are in the system now. Yep, so we can see this is a great property that does not have solar. It popped it right up. So let's go ahead and create this property. Since we don't have any contact information, we're just going to jump into the energy. So given the square footage of this property, right, we're looking at a home that's 1,411 square feet. We're going to go off of the baseline. That is the California average, which is 6,684 kilowatt hours a year. So Open Solar changes this automatically by state. So you don't have to do anything, but if you had your own energy consumption, we would integrate that in here. If you have an existing system, we can add that data into the system now. Open Solar is really resourceful for that because then we can see what your current system's producing, kind of estimate that, and then show you what the add-on would do as well. So right away we have the 3D modeling that I really like with Open Solar, as you can see, and it does a full shading analysis. So let's go ahead and hit save. And then we're going to add a new system. And we already have it set with Axia by QCell. Real quick. So we're going to use these 430 watt modules. We have good roof orientation here on the west roof. I think this is a good side to be on. I can see there's a giant dormer vent right here we want to kind of be away from. We can kind of hot map that, and you can kind of see like, okay, that's up there. That's looking good. I don't think we're going to need a very large system with this minimum, but we'll see. We might need to kind of balance it out a little bit. So put another one over there. We can kind of zoom in. And I'm doing this live, so I'm expecting there to be some hiccups. This is my first live video again with this setup. So this is kind of what I look like. I'm working on making sure we meet the appropriate fire setbacks. Sure, I could draw the roof lines and all that good stuff, but I'm pretty good at eyeballing it in most cases. You got to keep some clearances away from this guy. You're going to have some clearances away from that guy. Depending on your installer, you can get pretty close to dormer vents and other vents as well. So it looks like we're at about 113% offset, and you can see it's updating live over here each time I'm clicking on something. So we're at 112. And we want to try and get to 120%. I like with NEM 3.0, you really want to make sure you're getting a minimum of 120%. If you can get 130%, awesome, 140, even better. You don't really need to go more than 150% unless you really plan on using more electricity. And most of the utilities frown upon anything greater than 150%. There are some utilities like PG&E, this is Southern California Edison, that do not approve systems greater than 150% without load justification. So cool, we got our Qtron 430 watt modules in there. We know this is a concrete tile roof, so I'm going to put tile concrete. And then we're going to configure this with the Tesla Powerwall 3 first. I'm going to do a couple different designs off of it, just so you can see how easy it is for me to just change it up real quick. I love giving customers multiple options, like, hey, here's one battery option, here's another, here's a third. I like to try and give you 2 or 3. I used to do it with modules when the modules were a big factor. Modules aren't as important anymore. You can get the highest quality brand from QCell. That Qtron module is definitely just worth every penny, and you're able to buy it directly from them. So we got the hybrid inverter over here, and then let's get in here to grab a battery. Now I'm going to do this manually. I don't use the battery assist tool. I'm an expert, you could say. And then I have different batteries in here depending on the partner. So yeah, no, vertical and horizontal. So portrait and landscape in the roof layout don't matter too much in terms of their orientation. It can, depending on the shading, because the modules are cut in half. I'll jump back over to that when we're looking at it. So let me grab this main battery. We're just going to do one Powerwall. You really just need one to start off with, but looking at the array. So yeah, I have these 2 modules that are landscape, and if I zoom way in on this, so we get a good idea. So the modules are actually cut in half. So this is 2 panels, as you can see when they're highlighted. So the top and the bottom act independently of each other, right? And what happens is when there's shading that occurs in the bottom row, it doesn't affect the top half. Now, QCell's technology goes a step further, and the sections that are divided in half, the top and the bottom, they're also divided in thirds. So if you had a third of the panel shaded, it's actually a sixth, because you have 1, 2, 3 over here, and then you have 4, 5, 6. It all has to do with the design and the bypass diodes. You do have integrated shade optimization built into the modules. So if you had shading issues or shading was a concern, depending on the orientation of the module, it could affect the performance slightly. If you had, like, say, shading coming from this side, well, we'll say from this side, and it was going to get this panel, it is doing much better in a landscape orientation, because then it's going to just get over here. Whereas in the portrait orientation, you might get a little bit more shading, because it might grab a third, like grab between the 2, right? So, great question. I appreciate that. Now we have some other equipment we need with this. So we're going to use, and you'll see some Open Solar's integrated some distribution partnerships. So you see pricing like this from a distributor. I'm not even linked with them, and it shows it in here. It's very annoying. If anybody from Open Solar sees this, guys, that shit is annoying. Now we need the gateway for this particular unit. We're going to do the backup switch, the BKS. Depending on how big your site is, your electrical panel, we may not be able to do the backup switch. We might have to do the backup gateway 2 or 3 for your particular site. The backup switch just connects right behind the utility meter. It's really nice, and it basically backs up the entire electrical panel. So here we go. So this is our Powerwall configuration. We got everything done in there. We got the modules, we got an inverter, and we have the battery, and then the backup equipment. So now we're going to label this one Powerwall 3. I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to duplicate this real quick. I'm going to jump in here, grab a different inverter. I'm going to use, next up, I want to use the Q Home Core. I like to compare the Q Volt, that's QCell's hybrid inverter, which pairs really nicely with their Q Home Core batteries. It's similar to the Tesla Powerwall. It's an integrated battery system, except for the fact, again, disregard this pricing. It's through a distributor that I'm not partners with, and for some reason it syncs over no matter what. I'm going to grab the 20 kilowatt hour battery. When you're going with the QCell Q Home Core battery, you can do modules. So they're 5 kilowatt hours a pack. The minimum is 2. So you can get a minimum of 10 kilowatt hours, as you can see right here, the D10. And then they have the D15, which is adding a third module, and then you can add that fourth module, so you get 20 kilowatt hours. Given their price point, honestly, I feel it's just better to go with that 20 kilowatt hour storage. We can always step it back if you want to compare it. But it's one of those, okay, if you want less storage, go with the Powerwall. If you want more storage without buying a whole second Powerwall, so you're saving money, just go with the Qcell Q-Home Core. It's definitely more cost effective, and you'll see the breakdown. Now we are going to have some other equipment costs because we need to grab that gateway. That's normal with any battery system, unless you wanted it with no backup. We can do that with the Q-Home system. You can't do that with the Powerwall. You get backup no matter what. There ain't no way around it. So we're going to grab the gateway for that, and you can see it's DC coupled. And then I'm going to rename this one Qcell Q-Home Core. Right, perfect. Now I'm going to add in a third option, and this one's going to use Qcell's microinverters. So we're going to go from the regular Qtron modules, which are these last two systems are DC coupled. So there's no module level monitoring. Given this site, I don't see any huge advantage to have it, but some people, find it to be beneficial, especially if you have multiple roof orientations or a lot of shading. Now, with that said, we're going to swap out this central inverter, this hybrid inverter, the Q-Volt, for Qcell's microinverter right here. I'm not going to use N phase on this particular one. We can, but I really just like using Qcell's microinverter with the Qtron. They're integrated together. It's just really good, and you're getting a full warranty from one manufacturer. This system's going to end up being the Franklin Whole Home A-Power 2. So we're going to swap out the battery for a Franklin battery, which is 15 kilowatt hours, right? So I was kind of pre-planning for that. We have it right here, the main unit from Qcell, and then we need their gateway. Now they are launching their own meter collar. I don't know if it's going to work with the A-Power 2. I do know it goes with their particular system with the A-Power S. So I know it's going to work with the A-Power S. Oh wait, we don't want to restart. I like to just do a final recalculation before I save everything. Sometimes some numbers get hung up in the system. So perfect, we're clicking save. Remember, if you're interested in getting a quote, you can just visit me online. It's really easy. Just go to reinnovations.org, and from there you can go to the contact page right here, and you can just request a hassle-free quote. Right? It's pretty straightforward. This isn't anything fancy. If you need a specific consultation, like maybe you already got some bids, well, we do have that available. You can schedule a consultation for $199, and then we'll review those proposals together, so that way, you get an outsider's opinion on your particular site. But getting back to this proposal, so we're looking at this property in Palm Springs, this one particularly. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, beautiful home, as you can see. Really well done in the Palm Springs area. Very, very modern, very standard looking. Nothing special there. Most of the homes out here. It's about 1,400 square feet. So the workmanship stuff right here. So with Axia by Qcell, you're getting a 25-year equipment, performance and workmanship warranty. The modules, 25 years. The microinverters get a 25-year. And the modules also feature a performance warranty. They're guaranteeing almost 91% over 25 years. The highest in the industry was by REC, and that was 92.5%. So yeah, it's not quite as high as them, but man, it is so close. It's definitely worth it for Qcell because they're made here in the United States, and trust me when I say it, you're going to want to go with domestic manufacturing products. You want to minimize the products that you use and from foreign countries, because we just don't know how the tariffs are going to affect those organizations long term that are being imposed. Now, Axia does provide a 25-year workmanship warranty, 10-year roof penetration warranty, which is pretty standard across the industry. And then depending on the inverter you get, Powerwall is 10 years. The Q-Volt is actually 12 years. And if you do the lease, I think it gets bumped up a little more. And then obviously the batteries on the Powerwall is 10 years. It's 15 years on the Franklin Whole Home battery, and that's the A-Power 2, and then it's 12 years for Qcell. So you got plenty of warranties here on the system, and most of them are going to outlive, the system's going to outlive the warranty anyways. So right when you load into your proposal, you can see on the right hand side, I'm going to click view as customer. So this is what you would see if you requested a quote from me. And you right here up on the top, you have your grid independence score. This is a really important number that I've implemented within my proposals rather than solar percentage offset. That's still in here. That's down here, right? Your energy from solar, 130. You know, people are always so focused on this number. This number actually isn't as important as you think. This number is far more important when you're going solar under NEM3. You want to know how much of the solar and battery power your home is going to use. So with this particular design with the Powerwall 3, 94%. Now if we jump over to the Q-Cell Q Home Core, watch this, 95%. You got a bigger battery, you're getting more offset because it's in the evenings, you got more storage. And if we go with Franklin, you're getting a little bit more with that one, and it really has to do with a little bit more solar production that we're getting from Q-Cell's microinverters. As you noticed, right here, the estimated kilowatt hours for the first year's production, almost 8,800, right, for the Powerwall 3. Q-Cell's efficiency is a little bit more, so it's definitely closer to the 8,800 per year. But once you get those microinverters, that's a noticeable jump. That's 200 kilowatt hours more a year. You're just under, the net system price here is actually the total system price. I haven't updated that yet. I will be, because we're not showing you the federal tax credit anymore. So if that's something you want to see, we're not showcasing that because you just don't know if that tax credit's going to return. It's, you know, it's October basically, right? Government's being shut down. The tax credit's set to expire December 31st. If you haven't made the switch to clean renewable energy by this time, you know, it's going to be pretty tough for most installation companies to get you in before the end of the year. Yes, there's technically 90 days left, but the system needs to be operational. It needs to have passed inspection. You need to have permission to operate. I've seen other people telling you out there saying, oh no, it just needs to be installed. That's not true. It actually needs to have full permission to operate. So, you know, you do what you wish. You know, it's your problem with the IRS at the end of the day. It's, you know, I don't think they're going to go around auditing a bunch of people, but you never know. So in terms of pricing, you can see this right here. Now, if we scroll down, we can see under your solutions, which if you want to learn more about the Q-Cell modules, I did a great video talking about them. That's included in the proposal. You just click play and you just watch it right there. But yeah, so we got the modules. You see the quantity that you're getting. You see your Powerwall. You see your hybrid inverter, 11.5 kilowatts. You get information on the backup switch. We have your performance of the system, so you can see how much solar you're going to generate throughout the year. Obviously, the winter months, you're generating less energy. You can see your energy from the solar, 131%, based off of what we're estimating for the consumption of this particular home. And you can see you're still exporting some power to the grid, but you're primarily consuming 74% of all the solar energy. Now that number does change depending on the system, right, and its battery size. So, and it also has to do with its power output. So that's a variable that all plays in here that the formulas in the back end do a phenomenal job at. As you scroll down, you can see how the system works. Pretty straightforward, nothing fancy. And then you get that total system price. So with the Powerwall 3, it honestly is the most cost-effective approach right out the door, under $28,000 for 14 of Q-Cell's high-performance Qtron modules. These are all black, high efficiency, great warranty. And then you're getting Tesla's Powerwall 3, which has the integrated hybrid inverter, 11.5 kilowatts of juice available to you. That thing can start an air conditioner, no problem, and it'll be pretty close to backing up your whole home. Just keep in mind, you only have so much stored energy. So if you're in an outage and you're running your air conditioner during that outage and you only got one Powerwall, it may not last the entire time, right? It might only last a half an hour or an hour. And once you drain that battery, you're toast. You're out. You're without power. That's where Q-Cell's solution is a little bit better. You're getting 20 kilowatt hours of storage, so almost double, not quite. It's like 150% more. Still the same 14 panels. Yes, the price increased, but it's only $3,000, which is less than adding a whole nother Powerwall. If you wanted a whole nother Powerwall, you're looking at like another, 10 grand. So for $3,000, you're getting 150% more storage. The inverter output is a little bit different. It's 7.6 kilowatts, still enough to power most of the essential loads of the home. So all your lights, your outlets, the internet, your Wi-Fi, all the essentials, your ceiling fans, all that's going to run. What will be excluded would be the air conditioner, so that wouldn't be backed up in this configuration. If you go with the Franklin system, it's a little bit cheaper than Q cells, but it is less storage. So we're only got 15 kilowatt hours of storage capacity. You are getting closer to the Powerwall's power output capabilities. Might be able to start a small air conditioner with this particular system. But yeah, depending on what you're looking for, what your goals are, if you're just trying to, maximize your savings, well, let's look at that. So we're estimating for this particular home, right, 1,400 square feet, around $200 a month. That's not bad. After going solar with the Powerwall 3, new bill around $19 a month. That's pretty good. And that investment pays for itself. And over the life of the system, 25 years, you can expect to save over $83,000, almost 84. That's pretty substantial. Now, if we look at Q cells, yes, you spend a little bit more, but look, the lifetime bill savings increased. And it has to do with that storage capacity. Under NEM3, it's beneficial for you to have more storage. So we can see that there's not a big difference in the new bill. There's just those standard fees that you're just not going to be able to avoid. So you're at $18 for that new bill. But $85,000, $86,000 in saving is pretty substantial. And then we look at Franklin, it's about the same because of where this homeowner's consumption kind of falls in. So you got to just remember, this is good information. In all the proposals I send out, I include the utility tariff details. So you can actually look at what you're going to earn in credit, see that they're going to only pay you 7 cents a kilowatt hour in May through September. And they're going to pay up, in peak times, up to 10 cents, right? And there's peak generation periods. They have, off-peak periods, 6 cents, right? So there's these varying factors that are built in there. And then there's that fixed charge of $15.69. So if we look at the long-term payback, you're looking at, without that tax credit, 11 years for this investment. So your total savings is about $56,000. Now I know that doesn't get exciting, but we're using pretty modest figures here, right? I'm not like just ballooning the inflation of what the utility is going to cost. We're doing it at, I believe, 3%. If I scroll down, I think we have it down here. This is where most of those calculations are at. We have a financial discount of 6.75%, and we have murder loss. Yeah, so we have variables in here for the system's performance, what we're assuming. I'm pretty sure the NEM that we have for the net metering is 3%. 4%. We're not using a utility rate escalator of greater than 4%. So we know the utility rates have gone up more than 4%, and historically. So depending on what options you go with, you're looking at 11, 12 years on a payback period. Don't worry so much on the payback. You're going to see that return on investment. Now let's look at a bigger system, because this is a starting point, right? This is a pretty small house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square feet, a great home. But let's look for something a little bit bigger to put a bigger system on. So jumping back over to realtor.com. So let's increase the minimum. Let's go 1750 is our minimum. And let's do up to, we'll do up to 2750. I think that should be pretty good. So let's see what the results pull up. Ooh, this one's nice. This is 1.4 million, 4-bedroom, 2-bath on South Pebble Drive. It has an open house coming up. This one's a little bit bigger. I do like this one because it's a little bit of a bigger house. Doesn't look like it has solar either. All right, well, let's grab this guy. I like this one because it's on the higher side of the square footage. So we're going to jump back over to Open Solar, and we're going to start another proposal. Shout out to K2 Systems right there. Perfect. Oh, this is one I've already, again, I was kind of playing with the system to make sure this was going to go semi-smooth. So now I'm going to estimate the energy for this particular residence. I use 3 watts per square foot. This is my baseline. I want to say I read it somewhere in the NEC code book. It's some rule in there. It has to do with like electrical wiring for the home on where the outlets and all that stuff should go. So what I usually do is I go, whatever the square footage is times 3. So for this, we're looking at 8,163 kilowatt hours. Not that much bigger than the other property, but it's a good baseline. It gives me, if you have no energy data, it gives me somewhere to start, right? That's the objective. Let's start with something, and then we can kind of go from there. Usually, once you have that baseline, you go 500 watts per person. So if you have 5 people living in the house, you want to add 2,500 kilowatt hours to that baseline. If you got an electric vehicle, depending on the mileage, typically an EV gets 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Driving 9,000 miles, well, that's going to be another 3,000 kilowatt hours. So that's another 5,500 kilowatt hours total between 5 people and an EV on top of that base. So those are variables that I look at when I'm assessing a new home for someone that's purchasing it. And you're getting that firsthand experience right here, live, for free, right? So let's add some panels. We're going to go with Q-Cell. This time we're going to go with kind of a landscape configuration because I think it's going to fit on this roof pretty nicely. Yeah, we got a nice 15 panels. Let's let this process and see if it calculates. Yes, okay, 134% offset. That's a sweet spot to be. So we know this is tile concrete again, so let's get that in there. Again, we're going to do 3 designs. We're going to do a Franklin system, we're going to do a Q-Cell Q-Home core, and then we're going to do, well, we're already doing that one. We're doing the Powerwall. Yeah, so let's grab that. And battery accessories. Again, disregard this freaking pricing in here. The backup switch, cool. Got that guy in there. So let's call this one Powerwall 3. Now what I can do for some customers, they want to compare partners. So they'll sometimes be like, okay, Dale, I know you have different partners. I want to see pricing from 2 partners. And it's like, cool, we can do that. So why not for this one, we can compare pricing on the partners, right? So let me work something out real here. I got to change something on the back end. So that way the second quote is going to be a Powerwall system from Axia by Q-Cell and a Powerwall system from Energy Service Partners. That way you get to see the difference between the 2. So let's jump back into it. Don't forget, if you're interested in getting a quote, just visit me at reinnovations.org. And that white may have not been the best choice when I was picking a color, but hey, it's on there. There's also a link down in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Again, I'll be doing one of these every Tuesday at 6 p.m. So, look out for your city. If you're interested in me covering your area, do a shout out. All right, so now we're going to switch panels. Now, Energy Service Partner doesn't have the Qtron. Qtron's 430s, or Q-Cell's kind of keeping them for themselves. So instead, we're going to go with the Q-Peak Duo. This is a 405 watt module. So it's slightly lower power output, but not to worry. We got plenty of roof space, as you can tell. And this is a little bit tight for this particular configuration. So what I'm going to do is switch this over to Portrait and delete this top row. And that way I can get those extra modules that we need. So that way the systems are more comparable. So yeah, there we go. We need 16 panels of the Q-Peak 405s versus what, 15? So it's 1 extra panel. Not a big deal. Look at that. It's still a perfectly square orientation. The only difference is these are portrait where these are landscape. Not a big difference. Same roof, same there. I do need to grab ESP's Powerwall 3 battery instead. So they are right here. 1 Powerwall, that's what we got. Perfect, perfect. So what I'm going to do to distinguish them, this is ESP Powerwall, and this is AXQ for Axia by QCell Powerwall. And we're just going to compare these two options for this particular site instead. And again, we're just looking at cache options. Let me orientate this a little bit. What's really nice is this, so I can do this shading analysis. Boom, hang on. There it goes. So you can see at this hot map, look at how much heat there is on this roof plane from those rays. Yeah, there's a little bit of shade right here. And you know, back to that question that was earlier, since these modules are landscape, they're only going to lose a portion, half, at most half of that total power output, right? Because of how those bypass diodes work. Whereas with this configuration, these modules, you might lose the entire production on these modules. Yes, you still have bypass diodes. Yes, they're still cut in half. They're still in thirds, but it's not as refined as it could be. So let's hit save. Let me do recalculate just to make sure all the figures are in there nicely. Okay, we're coming up on 36 minutes on the stream. That's pretty good. So we've probably got time for one more, like, let's do a kick-ass large system, right? That's what you want to see. Again, 25-year warranties. This does kind of, you know, cover over to Energy Service Partner. Their workmanship warranty is a little bit different, but you're still going to get a 25-year equipment and performance warranty with those Q-cell modules. The inverter warranty doesn't change from Powerwall depending on the installer. It's always 10 years. So nothing big there. So here we go. Axia by Q-cell Powerwall 3. Great system right here. What are we looking at? We're looking at 15 430 watt Qtron modules, one Powerwall, got the backup switch, and we're looking at a total cost of $28,670. I think that's pretty good. We're under $29,000. We're looking at a lifetime savings of $107,000. So what was the bill going to be on this house? Well, it's closer to $250. It is a little bit more usage. Again, that's always going to vary depending on your time of use, right? When are you consuming energy the most? Are you consuming it between 4 and 9 p.m. when rates are crazy high? Well, this average, this calculation that we have, may be 280. So keep that in mind. Your savings could be greater. That's why it's important for you to request a custom quote. Now, we got everything here for Axia. We like the price, right? It's under $29,000. We're under $30,000. That's pretty good. I know there's no tax credit. Maybe if you move quick, we can get you in before the end of the year, and you might be able to get that 30%, which would bring this cost down, what, 9 grand? A little under 9 grand. Now you're looking at a system for under 20 grand. That's pretty good. So let's switch over to ESP. Yeah, so it's a little bit different. I don't know. Oh, I don't know why it pulled in the financing on this one, and it didn't pull it in on. Oh, okay. All of a sudden, it's decided that it's going to show the financing. Have no idea why. Why the software did that. But it's about $1,000 price increase. So Energy Service Partners, you do get some different perks with them. So they do a 1-year performance guarantee with their system. So that's standard. You're getting a special service agreement with them for that first year, where they're going to do a system checkup. They're doing a little bit more maybe than what Axia by QCell is doing. They have been in the industry a little bit longer as well, so they kind of know where their baselines are. But yeah, for $1,000 more, it's not a big difference between partners. It's, you know, it's not gonna swing. I mean, if you got a quote that was like $7,000 more, yeah, I get it. You know, there's a difference, but not a big difference here. Savings, yeah, it does affect your savings a little bit. Right, we were just under 107,000. Now we're just under 106,000. But it's the same system at the end of the day, and you know, there's nothing really to complain about. Production is pretty close to comparable here. I would say the variance is on the shading that's occurring on these modules versus these ones. Because remember, we have 15 of the 430s, and these is 16 of 405. So technically, this is a slightly bigger system. Right, it's a 6.5. This one's saying it's a 6.5, but it's rounding up. But yeah, they're pretty close to the same. It's just the efficiency of these modules, their orientation being slightly different. You're getting a little bit more juice out of them. So not too bad for a comparison. on a home that's going to cost you $1.5 million. So, I mean, would you rather give Edison $30,000 over the course of, wait, we didn't see. Over the course of 9 years, would you rather give Edison $30,000 over 9 years, or would you rather just put that in a solar system and, hey, you got backup power for when the grid goes out, because it gets windy out here in Palm Springs. We do have power safety shutdowns all the time with Edison, and other regions it's coming more frequent. So you'd have to deal with that with them as well. Keep that in mind. Or would you rather just be independent, right, and be like, cool, I'm good. Long term, once you hit 9 years, that's money in your pocket. That's boom. That's money you're pocketing. Keep in mind, we're only using a 4% annual rate increase. So depending on what your actual energy usage would be in this home, when you're using that energy, are you using your air conditioner heavily between 4 and 9? This cost could change for a number of reasons. Maybe you want a second battery. Going solar is going to look a lot different moving forward without that 30% federal investment tax credit. It's companies like myself here at Renewable Innovations that are focused on trying to do our best to find you good quality partners with good, honest pricing. And it's not the easiest thing to do, let me tell you. But we're doing our best, and we want to make sure that the companies we do partner you with are going to be around to service the system if things happen. Because these aren't just passive. If a guy tells you, oh, you don't have to do anything for 25, that's bullshit. Bullshit. You need regular service. You should have the system in check at least biannually. At least. You should have someone come out annually. We offer that. But you should have it checked out. If you don't have monitoring, you got an older system, maybe you learn from your first system. There's oops, I didn't mean to hit that one. There's definitely some things to do. Now, let's get into the third system, right? So we want to do a really big system. And so let's jump back over into Realtor. So let me share my screen with you. So that was a difference in quote from Axia and Energy Service Partner. And I got that for you. You only had to call one person. You don't got a million phone calls. I'm not here to hassle you. All right, it's just not my MO. If you're interested, you're interested. If you're not, you're not. And that's the end of the day. So let's bump up the square footage. So now we're going to set the minimum to 3,000. We're at a minimum of 3,000. What do you think? Should we go 7,500 on the big side? All right, well, maybe we'll do 3,500. Since that last house was about 3,500, huh? No, it was only like 28. Yeah, so we'll do 3,500 on the low end. See what it pulls up in Palm Springs. 39, 4790. Ooh, that one's a big property. That would be 4790. We're looking at like 13,000 kilowatt hours. This is a big system. So we've been gradually increasing them. This one's 5,000 square feet. I mean, these are great homes out here. If you're looking for a vacation home, I'm leaning towards this. Are you guys leaning towards the 5.1 million? I'm leaning towards the 5.1 million. Doesn't look like it has solar. So let's check the description. Is there a description, guys? Property details. Built-in entertainment, Fortress Solitude, 3-car garage, fully owned solar. Okay, this one's already got solar, so we're going to skip it. Never mind. They already made the investment. Makes sense. It adds value to your home. You put solar on it, maybe one day it'll be worth $5.1 million. People want to see that it's owned too, so keep that in mind. Okay, here's one, 3.9. This one looks gorgeous too. They got some great night photos. All right, let's check that description real quick. Property detail. You gotta love it when the realtor's too lazy to even write a damn description. For a $4 million house, there's no description. Am I missing something here? Wow. Wow. That's sad. All right, well, let's grab the address and just throw it in and see what we come up with. Jeez Louise. Fucking people. I don't even know how that's, I mean, maybe it's self-listed, who knows. Oh, and they ain't got solar on it. Perfect. This is our house. So this is this one. We're doing 500 West Crescent Drive, Palm Springs, listed for $3.995 million, 4-bedroom, 5.5 bath, 5,410 square feet. So what's that going to come out to at 3 watts per square foot? 5,410 square feet times 3, 16,230 kilowatt hours. 16,230 kilowatt hours. Man, that is a lot of energy, and I could see a person like this easily using more, probably even double. They seem like the kind of person that probably owns like multiple Cybertrucks. No, I'm kidding. You never know. But yeah, here we go. We got a great system, flat roof. So we're going to see some extra costs that we haven't seen in the other designs. Typically on composition shingle and tile roofs, there's not really an adder there for that. But on a flat roof, you might have to do like TPO, it might be foam, it might be membrane, we might have to do a ballast system. It just really depends on the structure and the roof. Yeah, let's get into the design. So we're just going to go with Axia by Qcell because I personally prefer them. As you can see, they got a slightly better pricing. Again, ESP has some advantages in some areas, and I would totally go into that with you if you were interested in getting a comparable quote for one system from Axia and one system from ESP. Right? We do have other partners as well, so if you wanted like a third partner in there for the mix, you know, we can do that. Just got to reach out, visit us right here, reinnovations.org, and request your quote. You know, it's pretty straightforward. All right, so now we know this is unique. We're definitely going to go like this. So, and you can see that the Open Solar tool automatically knew that it's going to be put on a flat roof. So it did put the tilt kind of high. Usually it's like 5 degrees on these kinds of systems. We're going to be able to face this pretty close to south. And honestly, I don't think this is going to have to take up too much space. And depending on the configuration, now if we do a ballast system, you know, it could end up being spaced out a little more. So right now it's looking a little bit more like a, you know, just a flat array, right? Maybe there's a small tilt. Now, if we did it as a ballast system, it would be spread out a little bit. So it would look more like this because there's special rackings that's kind of separating the modules a little bit, and they're still getting about a 5 to 10 degree. Usually you can get closer to a 10 degree tilt on it, and it's a weighted system. So if you got roof space for it and the structural engineering is supporting of it, it's a really good approach because you're not going to have to put as many penetrations. There would still be penetrations. You have to have seismic penetrations in there, so that way, you know, during an earthquake, whenever California decides to have a natural disaster, it doesn't just, you know, rattle off the roof. Not that it would, but, you know, it could. So bolt it in a little bit, right? It probably wouldn't be more than, I would think probably 10 bolts into it. So we got 30 panels of the Qtrons. We're looking at 125% offset. This is a 12.9 kilowatt system. This is big, right? We're looking at 20,259 kilowatt hours. Definitely giving them enough juice. We're going to call this a flat. Yeah, I'm just going to call it flat foam. Don't know what else to call it. On this one, given its design, we could go DC coupled. It's right there, right? So the Powerwall 3 supports up to 19.8 kilowatts of DC energy, right? So your AC power output is 11.5. So this site, we're going to do 2 Powerwalls. This will be the first one we've done. We're going to do 2 hybrid inverters with this particular configuration, and then we're going to add 2 Powerwall batteries. And we're not going to do an expansion unit. We could if you wanted to bring the cost down. We're just going to do 2 main units, mainly because I would imagine a home of this size has much larger loads. They probably got multiple HVAC systems. Maybe there's some mini splits. They probably have EV chargers. So having 2 hybrid Powerwalls, you're looking at 23 kilowatts of AC power available during an outage. It's of great value for a home this size. Now we probably won't be able to use, I'm going to guess it's a 400 amp service. I don't know. No one ever takes those photos. Realtors don't take photos like that. They focus on what we all want to see. you know, the inside of the home, the pool, the patio, right? This is a gorgeous house, by the way. Wow. I mean, I could the design, the furniture is like, eh. I'm gonna give the furniture like a D, but you know, all in all, it's nice. But yeah, there's no photos of an electrical panel. Realtors don't take those photos because no one gives a shit, right? I give a shit. So whenever I go look at houses, that's the first thing I look at. I was like, what's the electrical panel? But that's me, you know. So maybe that's you. All right, so we're going to use the backup gateway and not the backup switch. So this will get the gateway 3 instead, and then there's going to be some other components, right? This is a flat roof, so I need to add in the flat roof. So let me get in here. So we're going to sort this by Axia real quick. And this is just my system. This is not something you have to do. If they were going to add an ADU, would you be able to add more panels to the same system you're building? Yes, good question. So with the configuration of the Powerwall 3, given that it has the ability to add more, have a large system connected to it, right? 19.8 kilowatts. I believe that's around 40 panels. Hang on, let me check. 40 times 430. And it's 42 panels. So around 42 panels, 43 panels can be connected to a single Powerwall 3. So if you have 2 of them, that means you can have up to 83 panels in total. So add a third Powerwall, now we're talking 126 panels. So yes, you have room for growing, because this system right here that we're designing is 12.9. So you have room to add on to the first Powerwall, and you still have all that space available to you on the second Powerwall. So if they decided they wanted an ADU, no problem, expansion is there for them. So now we want mounting, which one is this one? This one is comp insert, nope, ballast racking. So I'm going to go with the ballast racking on this one because it's a flat roof, and I would think that someone that has a $5 million home, $4 million home, wants to minimize penetrations to the roof. I would, for sure, want to minimize those penetrations. And if the jurisdiction allows us to do the ballast system, not all jurisdictions will approve it, but we might as well try the first time, right? It might be a cost for a revision to have to come back with new plans and change it out to a standard, you know, attachment method, which we can do. But let's go with the ballast system first, ideally. So we got that in there, and then given that it's probably going to have a 400 amp panel, it has a 400 amp service, we're probably going to need a special sub panel. So we're going to do the 200 amp sub panel so we get as many of those big loads. See, Axia offers a 100 amp backup panel and then a 200 amp backup panel. We're going to go with that 200 amp backup panel. It is going to cost a little bit more, but we're going to move more of those circuits out of that 400 amp service into it. Now this home might have multiple sub panels. So, you know, if that's the case, we might have to see how we can back up multiple sub panels. I've worked on projects like that before where you've, you know, split lines utilizing Polarises. So that way you could, you know, go back up to 100 amp panels that are located in 2 different locations in the home. And the loads were sufficient for that. So we're just going to go with this one design. Well, you know what, I can't say that because I want to show the Q-cell system because it does shine in a comparison like this. So what we can do is the Q-cell system lets you grow, right? So what we can do is 2 Q-cell hybrid inverters. So let's go with the 2 Q volts instead of Teslas. It does, you know, it's definitely good to do. So let's do that. We're going to rename this Q Home Core, right? So this is 2 Q Home Cores. Now one big difference we're going to do here is we're going to go with 20 kilowatt hour batteries. So with the Tesla system, we have 27 kilowatt hours with the 2 battery packs. This is going to be 40. So it's a noticeable increase in storage capacity. Really, really noticeable difference. We could go with microinverters and just make this all AC coupled. That might be the bigger approach. If that's the case, we would see what Enphase wants to, or QCell wants, not Enphase. What QCell would want to do with it, I would probably talk with someone on it to see if they would recommend an AC coupled approach for the system, or they would be fine with it. So I'm not changing anything else. It's still a ballast system. We're still keeping that 200 amp panel in there, and then we got the gateway for QCell instead of the gateway for Powerwall. What do you think? Should we do the Franklin? Maybe we should. Just that way it's fair. Got to include Franklin. I'm pretty stoked on that A-Power S, man. It's funny because I was talking to them at RE Plus. I was talking to if I saw his name, Jawid. I can never pronounce his name right. I'm sorry, man. But great guy. And I was talking to him. I'm like, guys, you guys. I'm like, you need to make a unit like the Powerwall. Like, it's gonna smoke you guys. You can't keep doing AC coupled. And he was like, nah. And then literally like 6 months later, they announced the A-Power S. I'm like, nah, full of shit, guys. Funny though. Funny. It's more cost effective. DC coupling's making a big comeback because it's more cost effective with the removal of the tax credit. Organizations that are acknowledging that microinverters come at a premium, AC coupled systems come at a premium, they're shifting gears and they're going, okay, we need to figure out where we can reduce costs. Maybe not every site needs module level monitoring. Maybe that's true, right? I think that is true. I think that is the truth. With this site, we're going to use Qcells microinverters with those Qtrons. We could go with Enphase's IQ8 HCs, but I really just like to use Qcell. I do. And that HC, it adds a little bit of cost there compared to using Qcells. So why not just go with a high performance microinverter? You're gonna be happy. So look at this. This is a great looking array. Let's see how the. Okay, yeah. So we got a little. So what I'm gonna. Yeah, that's a little trick. I'm gonna shift this over. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of shifting the array over. I'm gonna have to do this on all of them. And I'm doing that because I can now see that there is some heavy shading occurring right here. So I'm trying to get away from that heavy shading. I want to try and get as much juice as we can out of this system. So that's what this little thing's helpful for. There's a little thing right there. I mean, a site visit will be necessary. This may not be anything. That might just be a skylight. So as long as we're not obstructing it, we might be a little more to the left. But right now, it's a good configuration just to start with. We did jump up a little bit more in performance. So let's make sure I got everything in here. Microinverters, gateway. Yep, cool. Recalculate. Are you ready for the pricing on a $4 million home? Right, this is $4 million. This is a great house. I mean, whoa, did you see that kid? That's the shower. That thing's, look at that. That was wild. Wild stuff. Exterior. They really like to flaunt this spa tub thing. Anyways, this one's for sale. I'm putting together a quote for it. If you were thinking about buying this house and you want to get solar, because guess what? The energy bill on this house is going to be a lot. And if you made a lot of money to be able to afford a $4 million home, you know the value in saving money then, right? You don't just willy-dilly spend it on whatever. You like to make good investments. This is going to be a good investment for you. So we're going to show you that. I'm going to show you that. And if you're interested in getting a quote, just jump over to reinnovations.org and just fill out this little contact form right here. It's pretty straightforward and nothing to it. So while the data is populating, let's go over what we got. So we got 430 watt Qcell Qtron modules, right? These are the DC on the Powerwall and the Qcell Qhome Core, and we're using the AC versions for the Franklin A-Power 2. Now we could do that with Qcell, and there would not be any additional cost, so it'd be the same cost. So if you wanted to AC couple this system, we could do it, no extra cost. So it's worth noting that. Same with the Powerwall. I mean, I could technically do it, but with the Powerwall, you really benefit from doing it DC coupled with the Powerwall. So 27 kilowatt hours of storage with 2 power walls, 23 kilowatts of AC continuous output capabilities, so plenty of energy and power available to you. We're doing a ballast system for the flat roof. Right now I have it set at standard. Extra costs could be applicable, right? Every house is different. As you can tell, we've jumped around different homes. We've done 3. We're coming up on the end of this video. Oh shit, we lapsed an hour. Geez, Louise, I was trying to keep under an hour. I talk too much. I'm sorry. If you got something more important to do, just circle back. We got a 200 amp sub panel, and it says partial backup because this house probably has a 400 amp service, so that we're probably not going to be backing up the entire home. The thing is, most backup equipment for residential is only rated for 200 amps. Now, from my understanding, some organizations are working on a 400 amp backup system. They just haven't gotten there yet. So, you know, until we have that equipment, this would be technically a partial backup. This is your system performance, right? So what are we looking at? Let's go back up to the top. 91% grid independence with 2 Tesla Powerwall 3s. Plenty of juice here for you, right? You're looking at just under $63,000. Lifetime savings, $250,000 just about. $250,000. If you can afford a $4 million home, I guarantee you, you're ready to make the investment in this, because what's the ROI? I bet the ROI, it's 9 years. I mean, it ain't amazing. You know, I mean, it's not bad. It's definitely a long-term investment. It's not like, cool, I made my money back in 6 years. Maybe you can get creative with your accountant. I don't know. But 9 years, 4 months with the Powerwall. Now let's look at Q cells. Now we're going to have 40 kilowatt hours. 40 kilowatt hours of storage capacity, right? So $69,000. So it is a little bit more, right? But it is more storage. Instead of 27, we're at 40, so we're about 150% increase, right? So it's like having a third Powerwall without a cost of a third Powerwall, because a third Powerwall would be closer to $10,000, $11,000. So yeah, it only being $7,000 more for 40 kilowatt hours is pretty good. Still getting great backup capabilities here. Plenty of energy, 130% offset in that regards. And what are we looking at on ROI? 9 years, 11 months. So it's a little bit longer in that regards. 165,000. You are saving more because you have more storage. So kind of keep that in mind. Now Franklin's going to be more expensive. Just heads up. It's a high-end battery. It's an AC coupled battery. AC coupled systems are just inevitably more expensive, right? So let's take a look at that. Generating more power thanks to those Q cell microinverters. Phenomenal. So you're getting 22,000 kilowatt hours versus 21,000 kilowatt hours. That's 1,000 kilowatt hours more. And it didn't really cost you that much more. It falls actually right between the price of a Powerwall and Q cells, which would make sense because it's 30 kilowatt hours. It's not 40, right? So if we come down here, we can see we got one main unit at 15, we got a secondary unit at 15. So that's 30 kilowatt hours. Axia has different pricing for that first unit because there's more equipment involved. The second unit's usually cheaper. For their battery systems, you know, there's not really extra cost from one unit to the next, as much as that transfer switch and the backup panel, right? Same with the Powerwall. There's not really a price difference from one main unit to another main unit, but there is a price difference from one main unit to an expansion battery. So we could bring down the Powerwall price if you didn't want as much power, which I wouldn't recommend if you got a 400 amp service. You probably want more power. Anyways, getting back over here, we still got the ballast system, got the Franklin gateway, which actually has smart circuit control relays in it, which is cool. So you could put like a large load in there, like an EV charger, and during that outage, it would just shut it off automatically. And then you could override it. Say the power outage was during the day, you know you got plenty of solar, the batteries are fully topped off. You could override it, turn it on so you could charge your car during the outage. Pretty smart. And then if the batteries hit a certain point, like say 50%, it just shuts it back off automatically for you. 65,000. So that's pretty good. What was the estimated bill for this? $505 a month. That's $6,000 a year. I guarantee you during the summer, it probably is close to $700, $800, $900 during the summer months. This is an average, right? An average of 505. It could easily be more. $233,000 over 25 years. That's real savings. That's real money. That's a real system that I built for you live. So what would be your new bill? 23 bucks. You know, what's Q-Cell? It might be a little bit less, 26, and it's about the same. Yeah, the $30. Powerwall was $30. The Franklin actually saves you the most. The Franklin A Power 2 would save you the most money with this design. So 9 years, 4 months. Pretty good return on investment, in my opinion. Utility rates are only going to continue to increase. We've got data centers going in. Water bills are going to go up. Electric bills are going to go up. Gas is going up. Make the investment where you can, what costs are economical. Franklin is working on having some of their batteries made domestically here in the United States. Q-Cell already makes their modules here in the United States. So you can definitely get a great system at a great price. That's why I was here today doing this live stream. These are homes in the Palm Springs area. If you're interested in a quote for your home in the Palm Springs area, just reach out to me. My name's Dale with RE Innovations, and you can just do that by visiting our website. The link's down in the description below. Yeah, just go right down there. Go ahead, like, subscribe, and share this video. I'm calling it a night. I was aiming for an hour. We went an hour and 6, so a little bit longer. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully I was entertaining enough for you. If not, well, I don't know what to tell you. Go watch some other solar dude do a live stream, because they don't do them. Why? I don't know. They should. I don't know. I just wanted to try in the Zoom features. I'm a little sweaty. I'm getting hot doing this. But yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you again soon.